Chapter 5 Sacrifice. I had a class in the afternoon. Lanting served as the messenger of the flowers. I took the textbook of formal logic and found a seat in the last row, and the result lived up to expectations. The old man opened his mouth and I saw the old demon Zhou Gong waved a handkerchief of welcome to me. The class was hopelessly boring. I even saw the spittle stars flying, and even the old man who spoke Chinese for every word, but I couldn't understand what it meant when put together. I secretly yawned. The children in the classroom were basically brought down, and the lethality was so strong that the biological and chemical weapons were beyond the reach of others. With what little sanity I had left, I walked out the back door while pretending to bow my head to pick up something, and the whole action was familiar. Going out from the northwest gate of the school is a very depressing side street. The urban planning has obviously ignored this place. In the deepest part of the side street, there is a bookstore opened by an old lady, which is dilapidated, old and moldy. People doesn't like to come here, but if you pinch your nose and go in and shop carefully, there are many good books and even some precious ancient books. When the old woman saw me go in, she nodded lightly, then lowered her head and continued her knitting. No one knew what she was knitting. It seemed that she had been knitting this kind of thing since the first time I came, but she hasn't knitted anything until now. Saw the finished product, but I don't have much inclination to ask. If possible, I don't want so much curiosity, if possible. I rummaged through the old bookshelves and piles of dust, and finally found my goal today in dismay. I sat on the ground disregarding the image and turned it over. The time in the old shop seemed to have suddenly stopped, and only the subtle information from the old lady remained. The sound of friction, and the movement of my pages. However, life is always full of unpleasant surprises. When the ringtone of the mobile phone suddenly started to make a loud noise, countless possibilities flashed through my mind. Rating. Dorm room stolen? Who met a pervert? Seeing Lanting's name flashing, I was really relieved. This means that the bell that suddenly rang was probably just because this girl forgot her key and was locked outside the bedroom, or she had a cramp in her lazy bones and asked me to run errands and bring takeout. Hey, Lan. Little spiritual fairy? Little fairy, hurry up and go back to school. Something happened to Shang Shu. Hurry up. I shook the book I picked in front of the old woman. Grandma, I've put the money in the old place. The old lady nodded her head, as if she didn't. I hurriedly packed my things and rushed out. Suddenly, a hoarse and old voice behind me said softly, "Unfortunately, you are from the Chu family." I paused, and when I turned around, the old woman was still weaving unknown things, as if the words just now had nothing to do with her. For the first time in my life, I was heard by a police comrade, and it was impossible to say that I was in a calm mood. A girl at the school, named Li Susu, committed suicide this morning, or rather, seemingly by suicide. In this girl's drawer, the police found quite a few threatening letters, which were disgustingly painted with the blood of unknown animals, just like the one we saw in Shang Shu. And the two girls in the school died so ambiguous, and they both happened to have some kind of connection with Shang Shu, which was too coincidental. As a witness, I will prove that Shang Shu was with me all morning and rule out her suspicion. The police officer who took the transcript had a sullen face, as if everyone had just come out of the labor camp. Are you sure? It must be certain and affirmative. Anyone who knows me knows that when I start talking nonsense in formal occasions, I must be unhappy to a certain extent. Didn't you fall asleep in the morning while the professor was lecturing? He raised an eyebrow and looked at me critically. I took a nap, I corrected. It's not that I was in a coma and was living in a state of suspended animation. I'm still very clear about the presence or absence of a big living person around me. The black-faced policeman glared at me fiercely and snorted, "Okay, there is nothing else for the time being. We will find you again when we need your assistance." I reluctantly curled my lips to show courtesy, and then I didn't want to see this black-faced charcoal again, so I turned around and left. Shang Shu has already been sent to the school's psychiatrist. After several repetitions, no matter how strong a person is, they will collapse. I inquired about the place, and after explaining to Lanting, I went to the psychological counseling center. The door was closed. It is usually not welcome to go in and disturb at this time. I sat on the chair by the door, took out the book that I have brought and looked carefully, until the sound of footsteps approached. Classmate Chu Ling. I don't have to look up to know who this deep and clear voice belongs to. I brushed the hair from my forehead and the book was still on my knees. Shang Shu will have to wait. The boy's skin was a little too pale, and his eyes seemed to be too sharp, but it cannot be denied that he is indeed a beautiful man. He nodded and sat opposite me, paying attention to the sounds in the room from time to time. Do you really care about her? If possible, I really want to wish the two of them to walk through the world like a pair of beautiful people, a pair for the rest of their lives. However, Grandma said that I am from the Chu family. Mr. Liu, can you come out with me? There's something I want to tell you. He looked up at me suspiciously, as if he didn't understand what a person who had no relationship with at all, had something to say to him. I closed the book on my lap, revealing the yellowed writing, "Sacrifice." Lu Jingyu's eyes quickly condensed into a knife, slashing at me fiercely. Who are you? I thought you knew. My name is Chu Ling. I emphasized the word Chu, and he was really alert. Are you from the Chu family? Yes. The ground suddenly became blurred, and the whole space seemed to be distorted. The wind stopped in a corner, and something blocked our steps. It seemed that it took a while before our eyes, and we moved our position in an instant. On the top of the tallest building in the entire school, number 3 teaching building. End of chapter 5.